It says we're live and it says we're recording. So
Well, it says we're recording. Oh, look, and we're live. Okay, now I believe it. Now I've seen it. Seeing is believing. So
Tina Taylor's way, yeah. Tina Taylor's world is seeing is definitely believing.
Seeing is believing. I need to see it. I want to touch it. I want to feel it.
Did you ask me how was I, or are you asking everyone that's here how are they?
Well, I was asking, how are you?
Oh, do you really want to know?
Ages. No. Let's get past that. Okay.
No, listen, I'm fabulous. I'm fabulous. Just feeling a bit summer fluey, but nowadays you get a sniffle and everyone goes straight for the testing of the nose and things like that. You know, I don't do that. But a bit of summer sniffle. But apart from that, got slightly sore voice. But I did a training today, and it was about radical honesty. So I've been shouting at people.
Oh, I love a bit of radical honesty.
Yeah, it was radically honest. Let's get grubby with the truth. So so I'm fabulous though, Tina. I'm fabulous. How are you?
Always fabulous. Now I am absolutely amazing. I've got lots of interesting things I've been doing. Second edition of my book I've been sorting out to go on Amazon, and I'm going to do some Audible recording and lots of things.
No, we both got a second edition book coming out, haven't we?
We do, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I've got my Living Phobia Free, and yours is
Painless Childbirth.
Painful Child Rearing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. I've been talking to Marco in Parma, in Italy. He's been asking me what flights do I want, because I'm going to Italy as well in June.
Nice.
I'm going to be running a worldwide live webinar on hypnotic anesthesia, and when they asked me to do it, I said yes I would, but only if you take me to Italy. And they said, of
course, well done,
but it's online. And I went, yes, and I
from
want
Italy.
To go to Italy.
Fabulous, guys. Hopefully those of you that are here watching this, you learn the importance of practicing your persuasion and influence. Yeah,
I'd love to do that for you guys in Italy. Yes.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, we had our call with Mindvalley the other day with Mr. McKenna, so we're heading out to Estonia to record a hypnosis course for Mindvalley, which is going to be fabulous for our students as well. So that's going to be quite interesting. So I'm looking forward to see how the Mindvalley people function. That's good. And the good thing about Paul is we do everything first class.
Of course. Excuse
Always.
me. I go first class.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So it's turning out to be quite an eventful and productive year, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, Costa Rica was amazing. Loved Costa Rica. I'm just opening our questions. We got a lot of questions.
Yeah, by the way, hello everyone who's here.
Yes,
thank you for showing up. Don't know how many people are with us today.
I can see Jane. I'm going to wave at Jane.
Hi, Jane. So I'm just checking the group. Yeah. So we got some questions. We've had quite a few actually coming, haven't we?
We have, yeah. We've got quite a few questions here. So shall I start?
You start, Tina. I'll just follow.
Right. So now I posted on the Facebook page about hope, because when we were in Orlando, Richard said he believed one of the reasons that Virginia Satir was so powerful and so good at what she did is that people turned up to see her completely broken down and devastated, and she gave them hope. So I put that post on Facebook, and it's caused an interesting stir. Some people don't like the word hope. Somebody said they needed to denominalize hope. And I said, well, that's good. When you denominalize a nominalization, you then get someone's strategy, and that's always helpful. because then you'll know how they're doing what they're doing. And they asked, how do you give your clients hope? And when people come to see me, a lot of the time it's a bit like Princess Leia on Star Wars. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, you are my only hope. I mean, you know this, Steve. They turn up and they've got all these problems, and they'll tell you they've been and they've tried this and they've tried that and they've done all these different things, and they're still stuck in the problem state. And when that happens, you need to be able to get it so that they believe there's a way out. Because if you're dealing with somebody who's so tunnel visioned and stuck, you know, make me do it, make me change. I've tried everything, it doesn't work. You have to do it for me. There needs to be that belief that it can happen first. And in this particular, I suppose it's semantics, I'm calling that hope. That's what I understood Richard to mean as hope. But of course, other people will look at hope and think it's something else.
Yeah, I saw the post. I did comment on it, and I was just, as you were talking, I was just flicking back through some of the other comments. I think that whole conversation about people showing up in a place of learned helplessness is an important one. Any of you that are doing any coaching or therapy work, especially, you're going to encounter that. Yeah, you're definitely going to encounter that, because maybe they've tried everything. How many times have you heard that? I've tried everything.
Oh yeah, everything.
And you go, everything? Yeah.
Yeah.
we can challenge that universal quantifier. Or amount of times I've been quoted gurus who people have seen.
Oh yeah.
And they, yeah, okay, and you're still in that stuck state. And so because they've had those experiences, they've now built up the case file to almost like defend where they're stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being able to recognize learned helplessness, meet it where it is, flip it around somehow, or create like a little crack in that belief structure. That's where I think hope is. There's an opportunity there to go, yeah, we can do something different. Are you willing, you know? And I think one of the best ways to do that, actually, I found, is getting people just a bit curious and, you know, a bit playful about it. Look, you're willing to try something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's too easy to get bogged down in the semantics of the word hope. Whereas what we're really looking to do is kind of just nudge people in the right direction of solutions, trying something else. Yeah, being open to play, being open to exploring, regardless of what you've done before.
Love play, because I usually say, okay, so let's have an experiment. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And then I start to play with the submodalities, and I get them changing a few things around. So they begin to realize, well, hang on a minute. No, that is different. That feels different. That looks different.
Yeah. And also, I think one of the things to remember, especially if those of you maybe new to therapy and new to coaching, and you will encounter this, you will meet someone who goes, I've seen everyone, I've tried everything else. And if you must have had this, Tina, where someone's turned up with a case file of all the, of all the people they've seen and all the things that have never worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got to get a little bit of compliance. You've got to get rapport with them really quickly. But, you know, I totally understand you tried everything. We're going to do something a bit different. You're up for that. And just kind of getting that little bit of shift, that's so important, because you don't know where it's going to go. But I can assure anyone watching this, that it doesn't matter who they've seen, what they've done. Even if you do the same thing as someone else has done, you're going to be doing it your own way. You know, your swish pattern will be a different swish pattern to somebody else's. Yeah.
So somebody turned up and they said, I've done CBT, I've been psychotherapy, I've had counselling, I've had X amount of hypnotherapists, I've been to all these different NELPers, I've been to coaches, blah, blah, everything. Nothing works. And I don't want you to do that fast phobia cure on me because it's rubbish and it doesn't work. What did I do with them? Fast phobia cure.
I wonder, yeah.
And they said, that was brilliant. What was that?
What was it? Yeah, absolutely.
You don't really need to know
It was
that.
the really fast phobia cure.
You don't need to know that. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the conversation about the semantics around the word hope is not necessary. Yeah. It's just giving people a bit of a nudge, some direction away from learned helplessness.
Give
And
them
learned helplessness is
resources.
very common, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how many people, I've said this so many times on these Yahoo, Facebook ahas that I don't see many people for therapy anymore. But certainly when I did, probably about 20% of people came in a place of been there, done that, tried everything, almost like a challenge. They come in to defend their learned helplessness. Dealing with that is an essential skill.
Somebody came to see me 3 weeks ago. I just got back from the States and she had an issue with drinking. She said she has 2 or 3 gin dry martinis before dinner, and then her and her husband drink a bottle or 2 of wine over dinner every night, and she can't not have a drink. Do I think she's an alcoholic? And we had a conversation. She cried when I said that it's possible that she is, but I'm not a mind reader, so I don't know without more information. And at the end of it, she was saying to me, before we did the trance, she said, I'm really scared that I'm not going to be able to stop drinking. She bounced in here today for her follow-up session. I haven't had a drink since I've seen you, and I don't want one. So we started off with her afraid that she was going to lose everything, that her husband was going to boot her out because he was fed up with her getting drunk and making a fool of herself, and she was so scared. And today she's just bouncing and so happy. And she started off with that learned helplessness. And I gave her something else.
Yeah. There's also another approach, but you've got to be careful with this, which is to take it the other direction. Like with the learned helplessness, it is a little bit push them further into it. So you get the resistance back. Yeah. Like give up hope. I'll tell you what, just give up hope. Stay as you are for the rest of your life, if that's what you want to do, or let's experiment, let's play. So you've got to know, guys, how to push them into it, and then when to bring them and go, okay, here we go in the other direction. Yeah, that can be very effective.
You could be provocative and say, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Maybe, you just don't deserve hope.
Yeah, do you know the story of hope in Pandora's box? I can't remember how this works. Stephen Fry in his book Mythos was talking about it. That I think hope was put in there by Zeus to tempt humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was to make us feel bad, because if hope wasn't there, we would be despairing. Right? So hope isn't a good thing. Right? It's to make humans suffer. Yeah. So sometimes take hope away. Go, absolutely. Yeah. Do you know what? You could be a hopeless case. Why don't you just stay like this and wallow like this for the rest of your life? Yeah. However, I'm suspecting that as you contacted me, you kind of really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we just explore? You up for exploring, trying something different? If you're up for doing that, then come along. Let's play. Yeah. It was a good post, and it was a good discussion came with that.
Yeah, we managed to get lots of people involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are. We've got practicing your practice entertainment. I loved hearing about Tina supporting a whole rock band, and deep trance identification is clearly a great strategy. I noticed Tina's attention to detail and her suggestion to keep practicing prior to the performance. My recall is the suggestion to practice for 3 weeks and wonder if that means in and out of trance. Well, I had anchors set up, everybody. I worked for somebody turned up at my office, and it happens to be a performer from a rock band. And they were going back on stage for the first time since COVID had hit, and they were freaking out with stage fright. And I just took them through their normal strategy of what they did before they went on stage. And they had a couple of things that used to work. People do weird things before they're about to perform. They had like a pair of shoes that they always wore and a pair of socks that they always wore. They did wash them in between. I did ask, because some people don't even wash. And I just created an extra anchor so that as they were putting their shoes on, they were like becoming this supreme performer. And I put lots of anchors in there. And I also discussed with them, he happened to say that they got into their music because of Elvis. This was an old rock band, guys. They got into their music because of Elvis. And I remembered Elvis's strategy, where he always had his dressing room so many steps before the stage. So I also created an anchor so that as they opened the door to go into the theatre or wherever they were going to be performing, as they were getting closer and closer and closer to the stage, they were becoming this super performer. So as they hit the stage, they just were there. Now, I did tell them to practice. I did. But actually, I'd already installed it inside their head that that's what they were going to do. If I was working with say an up-and-coming rock band, somebody that didn't have a lot of experience, then I would have them physically practicing and running it through in their mind. But for this particular guy, I'd already installed it. But I do think practice is important. If you don't have enough experience and memories that you can access, he had years and decades of memories of performing. You got anything you want to add to that, my darling?
No, I think it was lovely. I think it was great. And you're so right. If you've got somebody who has access to times when they performed, the deep trance identification is just with themselves when they were at their best.
Yeah.
And that's by the way, that's easy work, isn't it? It's a nice way where you can get it. That's really good. Yeah. And it's always quite interesting. There's it's like with most things, isn't it? A lot of people have the solutions. What's stopping them is what they're doing rather than the solution. It's getting them to stop doing what doesn't work. I worked with I won't mention her name, but it was a tour. It's called the Three Divas, and she's one of the Three Divas. And she wasn't Chaka Khan or Anastasia, right? And she kind of lost her voice and lost her mojo. So I met her, went to her house, and it was so easy. I said, you know when you were first getting going and you were with the Beatles and blah, blah, this is how, she's been around for like 5 decades plus. And that song you sing, what was that like, just to be that young girl? And she went, oh, it's so free. I said, just put yourself back there. And she just started singing. I'm getting goosebumps now. We're sitting in her kitchen listening to her sing. And it was like, job done. It's like the easiest work you could possibly get when you've got someone who's got access to all of those memories and those experiences. And like you say, you've just re-accessed it and the anchors are set. Yeah.
Re-access it, boost up the anchor, and then he was off. Now, the next part of this question is, with DTI, deep trance identification, what do you do if your client doesn't have a role model that they aspire to, and get them to create how they want to be? So they get to create what's it going to be like when they're performing the way they want to perform.
Well, actually, I think it's a strange question. I've never met anyone that's not had a role model, whether it's an actor, a musician. There's one guy who came to me, I kept calling it a trumpet. He got really annoyed with me because it wasn't a trumpet, and he was playing at the Royal Albert Hall, and I said, so who is your role model? It's like Dizzy Gillespie, and he couldn't play this bit. So I got him to deep trance identify with Dizzy Gillespie, and he was in my room, and he went, oh my God, I got it. I've got to go. So I've never met anyone that hasn't got a role model of some sort.
I've never met a performer that doesn't have a role model. If I've been using DTI with clients with something else, then occasionally they've said, and I've said, who has the resources that you want? Occasionally they've said they don't know. So then we've created an avatar which is basically them with the resources that they need. And then I have them float into the future, grab the resources. But that's more of a timeline thing than a DTI, to be fair.
Yeah, no, so it's a question someone's posed, I get it, but it's never a situation I've encountered.
Yeah.
People have always got some reference that they can go, if I could even be a shadow of that, I'll be great, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to borrow from that. Yeah.
And then we've got one last part. I've heard via an actor that 50% of actors have stage fright. I'd love to hear your experience of working with actors, especially where we can help them with that isn't taught at stage school. I don't know what's taught at stage school, to be fair. And I love working with actors because they're really good at taking on a part. So we basically create a character that they become that gets added to whatever they're going to be doing on the stage. I think that's the simplest way I can explain that. So we create, again, it's a bit like the avatar. So they're used to having this particular part. So we then create the actor part of them that doesn't have stage fright. And then they can step into that, much like my musician stepped into himself before he went on stage, when he was performing brilliantly. We have them step into that character they've created of them being an amazing actor. And then from there, they step into the character that they're portraying on the stage in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's 50%, but I know that many that do experience in real nerves and anxiety, and most of them take that as part of, you know, the price they pay for getting on stage. They, you know, there's so many famous people. I think it was John Gielgud who used to throw up before he goes on, used to go on stage. But then once they're on stage, it's all gone. So it's like they go, well, it's the bit I have to go through in order to get there. So it's something that doesn't need fixing for most people, because they'll still go there and they'll still do their craft.
Yeah, they do. They perform.
But they've got, you know, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, bizarrely, I've had film actors who are going to be performing on stage live, freaking out.
Yeah,
they're
that's
okay
common.
Performing in a film, but suddenly they can't do retakes because they're on stage.
Yeah,
and
that's very common. I
also had a stage actor who was going to be in a television series who was freaking out. But in their environment of being on stage, they were okay. And then it's just a matter of altering the strategy for them.
Yeah, and it's like most things, isn't it? You find out the strategy that's not working and muck it up, and then find out the strategy that was work and map it across to the new context. I got a phone call from someone. It was Christmas Eve, and I don't know. I know Paul gave him out my mobile. Okay, so it was Christmas Eve afternoon. It was, hi Steve, you know, hello dear, you know, hello lovey. This conversation. I need you to help me. I need you to help me. I mean, who the hell are you? So tell me who he was. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Boxing Day afternoon, I'm on stage and I'm terrified. I keep losing my words. I need to see. I said, well, it's Christmas Eve. I'm not seeing you Christmas Day. So I know, all right. So I arranged to see him Boxing Day morning.
Yeah.
And all that had happened is like 3 weeks before, he'd gone out, he'd had a little tipple, he said. Came in, he'd never fluffed his lines before, but he fluffed his lines. You know, was it something to do with the drink? I don't know. Do you normally drink? He said, no. But then he'd anchored fluffing his lines to going on stage. Yeah. He was very quick. He was a very fast learner. And I said, so what's the problem? He said, well, what if I forget my lines? I said, okay, look, you know, you're a Shakespearean actor, and you've been another one had been around for like 40 odd years. I said, what's one of the first plays you did? And it was Hamlet. And I said, quote me a piece. And again, it's not one of those goosebump moments, you know. World famous actor, to be or not to be, or whatever. That's Macbeth, isn't it? Yeah.
Alas, poor Yorick.
When
I knew him well.
when did you learn those lines 40 years ago? And you can still remember for 40 years and you're worrying about, remember saying it was still fresh? Oh, yeah. So I just got him to step into himself and being able to perform and just be, be very present. And it was off. It's so, some of them is so simple work with actors. Because like you say, they can step into the role.
Yeah.
I had a really interesting one, which is a bit of a twist on it. Again, famous actress. She was playing the mother in Blood Brothers. I don't know if you've seen the play, but there's a bit at the end. Spoiler alert, in case you're going to go, where it's really emotional. I think it had two sons die. I think the brothers died. I can't remember that. I went to see it once. It was very emotional, but I can't remember what happened there. But she was playing this role, and the role involved her to be in despair at the loss of her children or her child. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she played it so well that she was living her life in despair. So it was about teaching her to come out of it and clean it all up, and not lose the emotion that was in the role that she was stepping in. So that was an unusual one. It's very, very different one. But entertainers are very entertaining to work with, for sure.
Oh, yes.
And always get them to perform, because you get a one-off opportunity.
You do. I got tickets to a concert. I'm very happy.
Yeah. Ditto. Yeah.
Yeah. So next is for you: growing your practice, persuasion, selling, collaborative conversations. So this is what you did this month for the membership group. And this is so, wow, I loved hearing Steve's persuasion presentation this month. It really got me thinking about how to get the calls in the first place. I get most of my clients via referrals and occasional inquiries via Google and my website. I'd love to hear your ideas for getting more inquiries.
Well, watch the Growing Your Practice next month, because that's the theme. I know that's a cop-out answer, but
no, I think it's great.
Too big a question to give it 2 minutes to. The thing is about, look, if you get most of your work by referrals, how many ways do you get referrals? Would be my first question. How many different ways do you have in place to get referrals? And if you talk to most people, maybe 1 or 2 ways, if you're lucky. Yeah. Why don't you find 10 different ways to ask for referrals? And explore that. Yeah. And make it very clear. You build your business based upon referrals. And if you have had an amazing experience, I'd really appreciate you letting other people know, and I'll give them the same service that you've experienced, and just being so upfront about that. A lot of people don't even do that. Yeah, they don't even ask for the referral. As to Google, that's a completely different conversation. There's no way I can give a quick answer with that. You do have to be able to identify the people you want, understand what they're searching for. Because one of the benefits of Google, by the way, if you're doing, whether it's doing Google ads or whether it's doing Google search, is they're looking for you. Yeah, so they're already keen buyers. But you do have to do a lot of research to understand who the people are, what they're looking for, so that whatever campaigns you're putting together and your ads and the keywords you use are relevant to the searches that people are after. So, I can't give quick answers to those, but I'm glad you found it wow, because selling is an area where so many people shy away from, certainly in the coaching and the caring and sharing business. They're fearful of asking for the orders, fearful of being rejected, fearful of asking for the right prices. And I took people through, for those of you that aren't in the Secret Agents Change membership group, I took them through, it's called the collaborative conversation. So there are 4 different stages and 20 steps, different steps, that if you get them right, 99% of people are going to be, I'm in, if they're the right fit for you, by the way, if they're the right fit. Yeah. So your closing rate, although it's not closing, you're not closing a sale, you're opening a relationship, is going to be borderline 100% when you follow this particular process. So, and by the way, those of you that in the membership group that haven't watched it yet, I've only done one of the 4 stages. And because it will be 2 years before we come round. No, will it be? Yeah, so it'll be 6 months before we come back round to persuasion, another 6 months. So I'm not going to have you waiting 2 years before I finish off the loop, right? So I'm going to be putting together a couple of extra additional recordings so we can finish off this section on persuasion and influence. So yes, you'll have the whole package soon, but not in 2 years' time. I like to build up expectation, but not that much.
Yeah, not that much. Yeah. I thought that was funny when you were doing the whole presentation and you said it's going to take 2 years, but I'll do something sooner.
But don't hold me to when. I'll fit it in. Yeah.
You might have to wait a year, but it will be there.
Yeah. So whoever asked the question, watch the recording next month, the second Thursday of May. And I'll go with referrals. We'll be talking about referrals. How about that? Yeah. That'll
be very useful too. So here's another question for you about your presentation for the evening. Steve's selling training and the question about the one thing that we will do to increase sales conversations this month.
Yeah.
I'm now going to use Steve's key question. Are you in a position to commit today and get the decision maker on the call sooner rather than later? It amazes me how many people fail to do that.
Yeah, totally. And you shouldn't be getting them on the call later at all. That shouldn't even happen. Yeah. Should not happen at all.
Having future paced how this may change the dynamics of the interview, I'd love to hear your strategy for keeping everyone on board and inoculating against any objections. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you won't need to inoculate against any objections when you follow the process I'm taking you through. Okay. The only reason you'll get objections at the end of a call or at some point during a conversation is when you haven't addressed any of the issues. When you follow the process that I'm taking you through, if there is an issue, you'll find out about it earlier on and you'll be able to deal with it. The example being, oh, I need to go away and talk to so-and-so about this. I need to speak to somebody else just to get their approval. Well, that's talking to the decision maker. The person you're talking to isn't the decision maker. The decision maker is the person they're going to go and talk to. If that becomes an objection at the end of the call, you've missed it. You didn't address it earlier on. Yeah. So all the things that people talk about as objections, time, cost, checking other people, all those things will be addressed by following the process. Yeah. And there's something else as well. I mean, a lot of salespeople, I think the statistics are most people give up after 2 objections from somebody. Yeah. And if you guys have been practicing your sleight of mouth patterns over time, you'll know how easy it is to have someone have an objection and play with it and flip it around and turn it back and do a reframe. And you'll be able to deal with 20 different objections at least and keep going and keep going and keep going. But I want you to be able to take the order without having to deal with the objections by taking people through a process. Okay. So whoever asked that question, when I do the other 3 videos, because I think it's going to be 3. But the reason it's going to be 3, it will be 4 in total, is because that whole subject alone is normally a 5-day training. Yeah, so we're talking about 30 plus hours of training. Yeah, so I'm trying to condense that into 4 recordings for you. Yeah. So we'll keep it super tight. And what I'm doing is pointing things out and saying, go away and practice this. Go away and practice this bit. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense to whoever asked that. Follow the process. You won't be having the objections.
Perfect. So I've got another one here. So this week, I got a call from a mum who wondered if hypnosis would help her son to eat a more varied diet. Oh, I love these. Mum says...
Ketchup does it.
That the dietitian says there can be a fear. Having worked with another child who wanted to eat a range of foods, I'm aware that you can address the fear, for example, swallowing, and get them tasting new foods in the sessions. but there can be more issues to address to get sustainable change. Any ideas? Train the parent.
Yeah.
I love it when I get phone calls from parents and they say, oh, I wonder if you can help me. I've got this 5-year-old and they'll only eat fish fingers and chips and they won't eat anything else. And my brain goes, that's an amazing 5-year-old. They go shopping and they can cook. You have to parent your children, and part of that is teaching them about food and exploring different foods with them, even when they're difficult and they don't want to eat them. Yeah. So I don't work with young children anymore, but when I used to have the parents come. So I would work with the child if a fear had developed. 9 times out of 10, there is no fear. The child has figured out this is a great excuse not to eat what they don't want to eat. But when I've sorted that bit out, then you need to train the parents.
That was it. John Duval says that the problem is normally a parent.
Yes.
Yeah, a parent. I was it was on my patio once. It was a lovely summer's day and I was painting. And my ex came out and said, would you like an ice cream? I went, oh, yeah, that'd be nice, yeah. And the kids were there. They were all painting as well, right? So they're only youngsters at the time. They were like 10 downwards, yeah. And I said, would you like an ice cream? And I can't remember who said, can we have some vegetables? And I went, what? What? It's a hot summer's day. Who'd like a lolly? Like, can we have some vegetables? But what they meant was crudities, like carrot sticks and whatever. Because what we used to do is put a big bowl of this out. So they're hungry, put a big bowl of it before we start preparing food.
Yeah.
And if you want anything and you're hungry, go and help yourself. So by the time the food was served up, all the vegetables were gone, yeah, because they were hungry. And even if they didn't finish their meal, that's fine. I'm not going to force them because they're full up on vegetables. But it was a hot summer's day and they wanted fresh, cold carrot sticks. And yeah, so yeah, I think a lot of it is, as you say, Tina, absolutely. It's like teaching the parents and not putting pressure around, food. The amount of youngsters I used to work with when I was doing therapy where, there's so much anxiety anchored to the eating process. There's something else as well about the swallowing they were talking about, that swallowing is very much an unconscious process. If you try to consciously swallow, there's about something like 20 muscles that are involved. And a lot of swallowing issues come about because of the stress that's related to sitting down and, eating.
If they're not enjoying what they're eating, they're not going to want to swallow.
Yeah.
All about eating's all about pleasure, isn't it? You've got the texture, the taste.
Yeah.
And then you've got the juices, your mouth waters, and then you swallow. It's a whole process. But I train the parents.
Yeah, I tell you what it is. It also reminds me of, it's like Cesar Milano, the dog whisperer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He never trains the dogs. He trains the dog owners, doesn't he? And the dogs then fall in line and go, okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We've trained the owner now. I'll behave normally.
Dog's not the problem.
Yeah.
It's the person, and the dog knows it can get away with all sorts of mischief. So why would it behave? Okay. Oh look, let's do this one. So I've just had an inquiry from a lady regarding her partner's hoarding.
Her partner's hoarding. Right.
Hoarding.
Mm-hmm.
After various family members passed, they've cleared the contents of the houses and stored them in their own bungalow. He now wants to sort items and get rid of them, but gets anxious and decides to keep things just in case. In her words, it's got out of hand. So I don't normally do home visits with adult clients, but in this case, I'm thinking it may be useful. Yeah, thoughts. Well, my thought on that is no, because they're in their home territory. And then hoarders are very controlling. So take them out of their normal environment and put them somewhere else first. You may want to be in the house with them at some point. I had a lovely hoarder years and years ago, turned up at my office. When I opened the door, I thought it was a tramp standing there. This person was disgusting and they stank. It turns out it was my client, and they had cash, wads and wads of cash in their hand.
Or sticky notes. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so they came in. I even put a bin bag down on the chair before they sat down. They were dirty and smelly. They kept everything. Now, they did flush toilet paper away, but they did keep dirty tissues. They couldn't use their bathroom or the bath or the shower because it was full of empty pizza boxes, because they might be valuable. So I had to teach them a different strategy, how to identify what was valuable and what wasn't. Now, they could flush toilet paper away, so I took that as my starting point. How did they identify that toilet paper could be flushed down the toilet and they could let go of that easy and simply, and then I could then transfer that onto other things. So I guess with this hoarder, you'd need to find the counter example. Is it only things from dead relatives that he wants to keep hold of? Are there other things that he is able to get rid of? I'd probably be looking for the counter example first.
Yeah. I would not necessarily be going and doing a home visit for the reasons you just explained, because I've done that a few times with hoarders and wished I wasn't there. There's always jars of things you wish you'd never seen. You have to practice the white out and delete them from your imagination, from your memory. And like you say, quite often it can be really unpleasant. If any of you've seen those pictures of those ladies that go around and clear up hoarders' houses, I don't know how they do it. No. And they can be very, like Tina said, very defensive, and so everything's anchored to the place where they are. Get them out of the environment, and then really find out what the underlying strategy is behind it, because it can be so many things, can't it? It could be, making all sorts of stuff up here. It could be, an attachment to the articles rather than the person. A loss of control. That you really got to just sit with that person and find out what is going on with their strategy. That means they have to hold on to these things, and then find out what the alternative is. Every behavior serves a purpose, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, my smelly man was, he managed to clear out his house. He got clean, he got rid of all this stuff, he got cleaners in, and he sorted himself out. He was independently wealthy, so luckily he didn't have to worry about money or going to work. His whole thing was, he went away and he had loads of collections of things that he'd collected since he was a young child. And his mum came and house sat for him and got rid of all of his stuff because she said it was just collecting dust. And then something switched in his head, and from that point onwards, he kept everything.
Yeah, and it's quite often something can be like that. It is like an anchor to loss. So the thought of loss creates anxiety, and then it generalizes to everything. Yeah, it could be a collection, it could be a loved one, and then it becomes a pizza box. Yeah, and that sounds bizarre, but that's how creative the mind is in terms of taking a learned pattern and generalizing it to other things. But stay away from the houses sometimes.
Stay away from the houses. Yeah, definitely not. Okay, I've got one for you now, Mr. Crabb. I've heard all businesses in the UK are now responsible for ensuring well-being opportunities for their staff. I know you've looked into this. How do you get referrals into the business world, and what makes a good pitch?
Okay, so that's an interesting one. Okay, so let me go back 5-6 years ago. I ran a Wellbeing at Work company for 3 years and did a whole series of trainings. We did about 8 a year. it was quite tough getting the foot in the door, because I've had a couple of glass of lukewarm white wine at a networking event, talking to people about well-being and stress, and experiencing what I call the 3 stress monkeys, which is they don't want to see the stress, they don't want to hear it, and they don't want to talk about it. Yeah. So a lot of business owners, it's what's the problem? Yeah. Even now, it's what's the big deal? What's the problem? There was one lawyer I was talking to said, I don't really get it because, I thrive on stress. Yeah. And that can be the approach, even though, mental health is a more talked about conversation now than it was 5-6 years ago. Yeah. So back then it was still quite challenging. And by the way, I've been in that conversation since 2003, when the Health and Safety Executive in the UK brought out the new guidelines for stress management in the workplace. Yeah. They brought out a series of guidelines that from 2003, every company was meant to adhere to. And if you look at the statistics of stress with these guidelines, nothing's changed, okay? Which is fascinating, because it doesn't address the psychology of stress, it addresses the processes of stress, right? So you've got this conversation that's been going on since 2003. You're up against business owners who are resistant because they don't see it, don't want to hear it, don't want to talk about it. You've also got business owners who are, because actually somebody asked me this question on one of the workshops, yeah? And I said, well, we've got a group of people, we've got 30 people here, all business owners. Why don't we ask them? Why did you invest your time to come here? And what would encourage you to invest in actually continuing the program with your staff? The answer was, I've got to see a return on my investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sense.
So you've got to be able to demonstrate to someone that whatever you're doing, there is a return on investment. Okay. If you want a foot in the door, because the decisions are going to be made not just by the CEO, but by the accountants, the CFOs. Yeah. It's probably not even the HR. And by the way, a lot of people are talking to the wrong people. You're talking to the HR people who have to then go to the accounts people to justify spending money on it. So you must be able to make sure that you can demonstrate a return on investment by somebody engaging in your program. And if you can't do that, find a way to do that. Yeah, which means you've got to maybe run a few groups and measure things and see if there's a way to quantify, the number of days that people are not off ill, not off sick. Yeah. Now, there's also one other thing which you're going to encounter now. So I know I'm giving you lots of resistance, but if you're seriously interested in going into this space, you're going to have to find all these resistance, these walls, and you're going to have to push your way through them. Yeah. Be very resilient. And the other one that you're going to face now is that ever since, and certainly in the UK, the first aiders and champions courses came out. Now every company has a first aider and a champion, or a first aider or a champion, who has done a course but can't do anything, right? But companies have now invested in them, so they're not particularly really interested in somebody from the outside coming in, to deal with something they've already addressed. They've ticked the boxes. Yeah. It's a minefield, to be honest. I mean, it's a great place to go and work. Yeah, you're always going to find some companies that go, yes, we've got our first aiders, we've got our champions, but they're not really the right people to actually work with people. We want someone to come in. I've still got clients that do that. Yeah, but they're the ones that from a long time ago, even with their first aiders and champions, still call up and we, do occasional half day, on well-being. So it's a tough nut to crack, by the way. Yeah, although it's a big conversation, it's a tough nut to crack, because you're competing against that resistance, and you're competing against, well, they found a solution, which isn't really a solution. Yeah.
On paper, they fulfill the criteria that the government wants them to fulfill, but not actually solving the problem because it remains the same.
Yeah, in fact, there's a new layer of problems. So whoever's asking this question, you might want to go here. You might want to explore this, right? So I can't tell you that this is a place where there's lucrative business and you can really help, but I suspect there is, because it was in 2018. It was National Stress Day, and I was doing a talk over in where was it? Essex, because we had all, the P&O people that just laid hundreds of people off. Yeah. So I had the HR director of P&O was in this group. So I was the guest speaker. And I only had like 30 minutes, but I really tore into them all. Literally, it was like, how many of you are just ticking boxes? So, I had to be pretty provocative. And they were receptive to my being provocative. Like, you're ticking boxes. You cannot. Your people can't help people. And then it came to the panel, and one of the P&O directors said, "We've got a new problem. I'd like the panel to address this. See if they can address this. Our first aiders and our champions are all really stressed. What's going on?" So the whole panel turned to me, like they threw the hot potato at me. I said, "This is the conversation I want to have." Yeah. They've done 3 days and 5 days. They are not trained in therapy. They're not trained to work with people who are really stressed. So what they do is, one, they're feeling disillusioned and disappointed, feeling hopeless, like a lot of psychotherapists used to do when they couldn't help anyone. Yeah. But also what they're doing is they're creating they're almost like a stigma associated with stress. Like, well, we'll send you on to someone because there's a mental health issue, right? So they're diagnosing people with mental health issues when they're not. Yeah. So I said, we've got there's like a real Gordian knot of problems starting to come out of all of this. Yeah. So you might want to consider supporting the first aiders and the champions. Yeah. Putting something together to actually support them and helping them, because they've made the inroads, they made the start. It's like they've done a little foundation course, because if you've ever looked into it, and if you're watching this, there's, it doesn't go particularly deep. Neither of those two go particularly deep. But with your NLP, you could work with the first aiders and the champions to help them, or even provide a backup service, so that they're sending them, the people they can't help, to you. Yeah. So yeah, it's a fascinating area. There's a real need for it, but getting in there is a tricky one.
It is. I mean, before I started to do this, I was a training and development in an investment bank in the city, and anybody that rung up that wanted to offer any kind of assistance with stress, any kind of employee-related issues, were bounced around the office. Nobody really wanted to talk to them. Nobody was going to give them a response. They couldn't find out who to talk to. And we had a whole health and safety department, and that's who they should have been speaking to. Steve's disappeared. He'll be back momentarily. So I've got another question here. So how do you decide what to work on first if a client initially presents with one issue, then under covers or something else comes up, or maybe you get a list? Now, I've found out right from my very beginning of working with people, I quite often get a list. People quite often turn up, they'll book because they'll say they want help with confidence, and then they'll suddenly turn up and say, well, I'm not really very confident because I've got an alcohol problem, or I've got a cocaine problem, or I've got this problem or that problem, or I'm agoraphobic, or I've got a phobia. And then you can get something else come up, and then they'll come up with a frigging list. I've even had them get a book out of their bag and go, so really, what I've come to talk to you about today is, and I'm sure Steve's had this as well.
Totally. Yeah.
And they've got this whole list of things. So at that point, I explain that the session is X long, and what would they like to work on. And sometimes we might spend the first 15, 20 minutes coming up with a hierarchy as to what's the most important thing. Now, if you can get, usually when there's a list, there's one that's holding all the others up. If you can get that one, everything falls down, and then you're a superstar. So it's a matter of exploring the list with them, calibrating their responses, and getting them to come up with what it all means, what it does for them, and then choosing what they want to deal with there and then. Some of them are interchangeable anyway, and it's really simple to deal with 2 or 3 things. If they're worried about their weight because they've got food issues, that could make them less confident. That could give them the agoraphobia, where they don't want to leave their house because they don't like the way they look. So some of them could be interconnected. So it's a matter of listening, paying attention to how they talk about their problems, and getting a kind of a hierarchy and seeing where you start.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm back. I was choking. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit like the learned helplessness. It happens quite regularly, doesn't it? You know, there's never just one issue. There's a whole Gordian knot of issues. So I think one of the things is to not be caught out by it if you can, which is why I have a consent form. So in the consent form, the intake form, are there any other issues you feel may be associated to why you're coming to see me for? Yeah, so it gives them a chance to put it down. You go, okay, well, there's a long, we've now got this long shopping list of things. Yeah, but like Tina said, you'll start to see that there's connections. It could be I'm anxious, so because I'm anxious, it leads to this is a problem and that's a problem and that's a problem. So if you deal with the anxiety, then the rest of it collapses. But I totally agree with everything you said there, Tina. That's what I do. And sometimes it's also good to look for a quick win for someone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If they've got a long list, I mean, I've got the intake form. So Steve and I both work in a similar way, so that you fill out a form, and then I get to see the form before I've even confirmed the appointment. I know what's on the form, and sometimes when they turn up, what they ask for isn't even on the bloody form.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that's another conversation completely.
So we're going to coach around decision making.
Yeah.
And the good news is I do have your credit card details, yeah. But do make sure that whatever programs you run, it is very clear that they're there to address this particular thing, and they want to address other things. That's why you've got extra session times. Yeah, sort out your session time so that it's very clear you're not going to cover everything.
No, you don't have to do it all in that session, remember?
No.
I remember years and years ago, Michael Breen asked me once, because at the very beginning in the UK, it was McKenna Breen. So it's Paul McKenna, Michael Breen, and Richard Bandler on the courses. And Michael said to me one day, so you're seeing people, aren't you? And I went, yeah. And he said, how's it going? And I said, I think I'm doing okay. I can sort most things out in a couple of sessions now. And he laughed and he said, you're looking at what Richard does on the stage and you're thinking you've got to sort it out in X amount of time. And he said, you have to remember that when Richard's seeing clients privately, he might only see them once, but that might be a 4 or 5 hour session because he'll just keep going. So yeah, it is a matter of just working on what's the most important at that point in time. And if there's a huge list, as Steve said, go for the win, go for the quick win, because that will then motivate them to keep going. And then you've created, I'm going to say hope.
Yeah. But I also do. I've had that before, where there's been the shopping list, and it's not necessarily clear where they want to go. So we talk about the concept of mind and behaviors, and some coping mechanisms, and give them, like Tina says, a bit of hope. And we go, and now we've got a plan for working on this. Yeah, I think that's really fair and reasonable. And totally. A lot of people see demonstrations on stage and think everything has to be done in like a 45 minute demo. No, it doesn't. The real world doesn't work like that. Yeah. So
I've-
Tina, I'm aware we're up on the hour.
It is
That's
on the hour.
flown by.
Good,
That's
yeah.
flown
Where
by.
does that go? And I've got more questions too. I'll roll them over to next time.
Yes. Yeah. So look, I don't know who's been on. I haven't been checking. We've got a few people. Sue, Jane.
Yeah, lots of people there. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael. So sorry if we haven't answered all of your questions, guys. Regina, lovely to see you guys. We've got our, check out the website, please. We've got our business alchemy coming up in, when is it, Tina? July.
July,
June?
yeah, it's the first
July.
of July. We're running a retreat at Chalice Well in Glastonbury. So we're going to have lots of fun there. We're going to be doing lots of things energetically.
Yeah, things that many of you that have trained with us won't have seen us do before.
Well, actually, they've seen us do, but they haven't known we're doing it.
Okay, and I know there's definitely one thing they won't have seen me do before.
Yeah,
because the shields are always up.
Yeah.
Lots of magic. Yeah. So if you guys can join us, definitely be there. It's going to be a really good one, cool one. I mean, by the way, we've got our prac in 3 weeks' time.
What is it, 3 or is it 2?
Yeah, 3 weeks. Yeah. So if anyone's been sitting on the fence and has been considering coming to join us, we're at Regent's College in London. Yeah, grab your place. It'd be good to see you there.
Regent's Park, come and play with us. It's going to be lots of fun.
Yeah, yeah. So Tina, let's let these good people get on with their lives.
And I'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Live long and prosper.
Yeah, live long and prosper. Be well.
Be well. Bye.